All right, guys. Got one.
Yeah, got one. It
Never
starts
easy.
with one. It starts with one.
Come on, guys. They weren't down 3-0 now. I mean, but that's one. It counts. Counts.
It's
All
a new
right.
series. It's a new series. I mean, if this was a must-win game, everybody knew if the Celtics lost this game, it was over. You don't come back from 3-0. And the way they played tonight, all I have to say is the Heat have a lot of thinking to do over the next 3 days. A lot of thinking to do because the Celtics come out and play like this again. I mean, it goes back to what I said before the series started, and what I think we all said is that they're the more talented team. If they play the way they can, this is the Celtics series to win.
Well, I mean, it was goes to what a lot of what we said, and again, it was a very complete game. The Hayward factor, we'll get into that, made a huge difference. The attacking, we talked about Jaylen Brown after the last post game show. Get him involved, get going to the basket, stop settling for jumpers. So, I mean, it's funny because that whole locker room thing seems like a million years ago because I don't see any of that there. Whether to call it galvanizing or not, it's hard to say. But they
Yep.
clearly looked very together tonight, and it looked like they were making a conscious effort to distribute the ball. Really, make sure they were getting good shots, being super aggressive. Whatever
Right
it
off the
is they
top.
decided they wanted to do today, they did it for basically 3/4 and 9 minutes.
Right.
and then and then gave us all a heart attack for about 3 minutes where we're
Right
just
on brand.
screaming at each other because they can't make it easy.
Let's wait to see what comes out of the locker room tonight, because after
Yeah.
that close, there might be some more screaming and yelling. I don't know.
I doubt it, but yeah, there was some pretty dumb shit down the stretch. And that was, I mean, there's no reason to rehash it because it really doesn't matter that much. In a 12-point game, stuff like that would be fatal, potentially. So you got to clean that up. You do need the full 48. They played 45. They built up a big enough lead where they could get away with that crap last 3 minutes there.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Miami wasn't hitting threes. But let's just go through the whole game. Josue, your thoughts on just how it all went down?
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think the everything that happened at the end of the last game sort of does matter in the sense of like, what was the Celtics going to do in those panic moments? What were they going to do if they blew another lead? What were they going to do if they were down by 5 points in the end of the third quarter? And they never really got to that point because they kept that consistency. So that was a huge plus. We saw the same sort of energy in game two. That we saw in that first quarter, but the only difference is they would be more aggressive towards the basket. I think no one had a big problem with the looks and the opportunities that these guys were getting in that first quarter in game two. But the difference in game three was that it didn't matter whether it was outside or whether it was giving them, any kind of jump shot. They were going to the basket no matter what. So that was good. That set the tone. And then it carried over to the third quarter. There were moments in that third quarter, though, I was thinking to myself, I don't know, Miami's just right there, here we go. Hero's doing his thing. I'm waiting for Duncan Robinson to get going. Luckily, it never happened, but you got to give kudos to the Celtics also, that second unit, which, of course, we'll get into Gordon Hayward and what he meant. But, overall, defensively, when the Miami Heat punched back, the Celtics stood their ground, which was a huge difference compared to what we saw in game two.
Couple moments there. You had that best five lineup in the second that kind of stopped the bleeding and got the lead back up to 12, where it could have it was down to 5 or so or whatever it was, and it was trending towards, all right, here they go. They kind of pissed this one away, and then you closed. It looked like in the third they were starting to break as well, and they had that nice little run, got it to 16. Could have been better could have been more if you didn't have that stupid turnover of Kemba into Smart late where they should have been playing for the last shot, and then Smart just falls down and trips Dragic there. Luckily, he only makes 1 out of 2, but they escaped there too with their double-digit lead intact where it looked like it could have been going the other direction. So again, they stopped the bleeding at all the right times. There was one time where Brad was paralyzed on that 11-1 run. That was in the third quarter, and we're literally, I think 95% of Celtics Twitter was just timeout, screaming timeout.
But how about when Tice got into foul trouble? He made that huge foul.
My whole timeline was just people calling for Brad to call timeout.
He made that huge foul in the third quarter. And then Grant Williams, he comes up big offensively with the three. That was huge for them.
Yes, that's what I mean. Is each of those moments where it could have gone the wrong way, they did just what they needed to do to keep it there, where it didn't get out of hand. But yeah, Bobby, what do you think?
I love the end of the third quarter there. That was a critical portion for me because if we think about it got to 11 or so right there with that 11-1 run, and I actually like them not taking a timeout. Just let them figure it out themselves. I mean, like, we keep hammering Brad, what more can he say at this point? Like the stuff they do in these situations, whether it be turnovers, whether it be offensive fouls or just slip ups in the passing game, like there's nothing he can say, and they just have to figure it out. And credit to them, they did in that situation.
Bobby, I don't think we're hammering Brad. All we're saying is it's not Brad's fault of anything that's happening on the court.
Brad bodyguards out.
Yeah, there's just a couple times where everybody seems to see that the team gets a little ahead of itself and things are getting away. We were again texting each other like, if the Heat go on a 4-0 run here, call the timeout. Just chill everybody out. Get them focused again. That's all people are looking for sometimes. It's not like it's like, he's screwing up the game. Just recognize that your team has suffered from this sometimes. So every once in a while, it's not the worst thing in the world to intervene and be like, everybody, slow it down. Remember what we're doing, You
did see a little bit at the beginning of the run. I saw Kemba hesitate on a corner three right at the beginning of that run.
Yep.
So I think it was Tatum on the left side of the zone hesitate there too. They dumped it off to Grant, and Grant missed in the lane. And those Grant minutes went from great to bad real quick because they started in the paint. Yeah. He ends up minus 11 in this one, which is too bad because he was very good the first 2-3 minutes of his set there.
Grant turned into a pumpkin right before our eyes. That was
yeah. He was like,
doesn't that always happen? It seems like all those bench big minutes are borrowed. You get a little bit of a run, and you're like, all right, it worked. And the second time you bring that guy in, every time, whether it's Williams, Cantor, or the other Williams, it's always like, oh, God, that was bad. You saw it again tonight. Brad got good Cantor minutes in the first half, but after what happened in game 2, he's like, I'm not doing that again.
Right, but then also you're thinking about what happened before. I'm like, can I get 8 from Brad real quick? Wanamaker, 8 quick points, because we're hoping for those little pockets of hope, those 3-minute stretches where you really need it, or Celtics really need it.
Right.
The one thing I need to hear, I need to see Gary Washburn tweeting about another locker room fight tonight, because whatever was said in that locker room, man, we could have gone one way or the other, right? I mean, I think most of us thought that it would be a good thing because we know that these guys they're a good team overall. If you told me last year's team had a blow up in the locker room, I'd be like, oh boy, that's very bad news. Not that things could have gotten much worse, but I mean, whatever was said and hashed out after, I guess not so much in the locker room, but in the conversations following that blow up, clearly these guys were on the same page then, because right off the bat, you saw Marcus and Jalen kind of, they were kind of spot on. I think they each scored the first couple of baskets of the game, and it looked like the Celtics were making the extra pass early on in this game. It didn't feel like I saw anybody hoisting shots. Nobody was just head down driving to the hoop. It felt like there was even some give and goes going on, like you take it, no, you take it type thing. So it was good to see that, and that sort of was a very it was a constant throughout the game. I mean, it was one of those games where the Celtics, they took a lead early, and they kind of held on for most of the game. Sure, you want to talk about that late fourth quarter, collapse or whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, I mean, they played 45 good minutes of basketball, and sure, they let the Heat come back a little bit, but I'm not going to hold them to the fire over it.
There was a couple. It wasn't just sharing the basketball. You could see the concerted effort too. After bad plays, seeking each other out for high fives and encouragement.
Yeah,
you saw more
communicator.
Yeah,
there was one point where I think Kemba,
you saw Kemba a couple times to Smart. Like that was all right. We're all right.
Yeah. So Jalen had like a thing.
Grant Williams was the guy who texted everybody like last night, like, "Hey, good night, guys. Tomorrow's a big day." He's definitely that guy.
It's like it's gonna be okay.
Right.
We love you all. No, but I mean, the fight. I mean, turns out. I mean, again, maybe it's moot, but it was a bit worse than we thought. It wasn't just
it had to have been an
explosion. I mean, it was so bad they called a meeting that night, and then another one the next day. They had to get back
on
a
phone call and.
So like it was Marcus was that mad. So like I don't know if it could have been one incident that set him off, or yet again you don't want to speculate, but you wonder has there been something below the surface there, bubbling up this whole time to be that friggin'. I mean, to take a locker room explosion in 2 separate meetings over 2 days in order to friggin' finally chill things out. I was surprised that it went that far.
Well, the part of the report that surprised me the most was when they said that Marcus Smart was getting into it with assistant coaches before the game had ended. So then when I found that out, you're thinking about Marcus Smart with the kind of energy like, wow, we just lost. Yeah, I took that, what may have been an ill-advised 3, what other people are thinking, but you're already feeling a little guilty, and maybe someone said a comment and then that set him off.
Right.
But I don't know if something like this happened prior to game 2. But the part about him getting into it with assistant coaches, like, before the game's even over, like that's not a good. I mean, I was a little surprised by that.
It's why it's human psychology. It's why no interventions go well. Like no one wants to be ganged up on by 10 people telling them that everything is wrong. So
and then after that 3, it's like the elephant in the room. It's like hey, Marcus,
and then you just lash out at everybody, and it's you're like a cornered animal at that point. So it's possible you're right. It was just one too many people said something, and he's like "F this" and just lost it.
Right.
So.
But he needs to be held accountable for that. So I'm glad that Jaylen Brown did that. I mean, Celtics fans love Marcus Smart, as they should. He makes a lot of winning plays and all that stuff. But I mean, it's no doubt that in game 2 he made a lot of dumb decisions. I'm not saying he's the only one who did, but he deserves to be called out for it from his teammates. And and it looks like I don't know how the conversations went, but I would imagine that these guys had some sort of truce where they both, owned up to whatever it was that was bothering each other, and they were able to move forward. And that's the mark of a good team. I mean, after game 2, I said, I asked the question, is this team too young to, be in this position or go any further? Tonight, they didn't look at as much. And I wonder if Gordon Hayward had a big part to do with that. I mean, when you look at Gordon Hayward's stat line, it's not going to jump out to you, but the guy played 30 minutes tonight. I think he was a cool, calm presence out there. Facilitated, stood in the corner.
That gate out there, though, that gate was on
gate. Yeah, Josue, I was gonna let you let us know about the gate.
How was the gate, Josue?
The gate was, man. Let me tell you something about gate. Those cuts, those drives. That's gate. That's gate all day.
You saw a little something with him coming.
Gate game going.
Gate game for sure.
So where'd you see John?
Put that in the stat line, Mad Gate.
This was clear as day, and actually one of Doc Flynn, who you guys I'm sure know as well. Actually,
from Doc Flynn,
actually texted me during the game. She's like, "Did you see that?" And I rewound it, and I saw it on the foul in the first half when he got reached in on. He clearly planted hard with the right, total flat tire, couldn't get going, and that's almost what caused him to lurch forward and the foul there because he couldn't get lift. And then he had another one late in the game when I texted you guys where it was another case of it where he just totally had a flat tire and couldn't get.
I'm interested to see how he's feeling after this because
you can tell it's not 100. It was fine. He shook it off. It wasn't like he got gimpy after, but you can tell again when he plants hard on it, he wasn't able to get any lift there. So he's definitely going to be a little bit limited. But man, right out of the gate, he just comes in and just drops that dime to Tice. Makes another great pass for an open 3 that they didn't make, and everything was just smooth, it was just calming to have him in there, and his passing and playmaking. He had a great outlet for a dunk on a transition. And it was the best thing about it was as soon as he came in, everything felt calm, and almost at the moment he's delivering that assist to Tice, or it was right before his first bucket. Rachel Nichols drops that nugget. That by the way, he's not going home anymore. And we're like, what?
Oh, that was more than a nugget. That was a bomb. That was a Nichols bomb.
And I went quickly. I was like, was that out there already, or she just break that news?
I hadn't seen that in a while. I
didn't see that.
Breaking news like that, yeah. That was
I remember before the last game, and then the last time we had the show, I was like, I heard there was conflicting reports that he may, but there was nothing concrete though. There was nothing saying that Gordon was leaning towards the game. But yeah,
she just casually dropped it like everybody knew it, and I was like, "What?" Yeah. So that's kind of a game changer now. I mean, and again, good on Gordon because people were prepared to kill him if he did it, right or wrong. Everyone was going to give him shit.
Yeah.
Everyone would have just said, "Hey, leave right now."
And I mean, the fact that he's like, I can't, they're down. I need to stay here. Kind of, good on him because a lot of people were like, you play I get it, it's family and all that, but everyone's thinking it's your 4th kid. It's not gonna you've had 3. You know what it's all about.
It is his first boy, though. It is his first boy, so I don't blame him.
Skype it in, man.
It's the way we're doing things now,
We're just have a Zoom, baby. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, you can be just as effective over Zoom, just being like, just breathe, stay calm.
Yeah,
I'm right here.
The voice of Gordon Hayward as the guy who looks most like him here. I would have been fine with it. I was all
Bobby loves that he looks like Gordon Hayward, allegedly.
Bobby's
I don't know anyone who
throwing
said
with his eyes closed.
He's
right
really
now.
running with that.
He's running with that, Josue. He is running with that.
I want the Hayward stash back, Bobby.
Now, let's be honest though. What's the passive aggressive response he got from Robin when he finally got the green light though? Like this wasn't like
Oh,
that was a quick
He
10
put
minute
his headphones
conversation.
on and started playing video games and pretended he didn't hear the phone.
yo, it's funny you guys mentioned that. So after Nichols said that, I went to Robin's Instagram account because that's just what I do, and she actually posted. She must have been obviously watching, so she actually she posted a story. She goes, "No, I am not in labor. When I want to tell everyone when this boy is born, I will. Until then, LOL. Just please stop talking about it. Gordon isn't going to leave the bubble for the birth, so stop asking that too. Thank you."
She didn't. She's like, Rachel's not breaking this story. I'm breaking this
Yeah,
story.
right. She got in front of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you the straight dope. This is coming from me. I made the decision.
Yeah, it is her call. She can take it back if she wants to.
Actually,
I told him he could stay. He didn't decide.
Yeah.
I mean, she's getting messages like induce early and this and that. So I mean, half the people talking about her probably don't even know her name. So I understand it. It's an
why we all know.
It's an awkward situation for everybody to be in.
Bobby, you must have a girlfriend similar to Robin. What's going through her mind right now in your opinion?
I've been told I can't make this post game show past midnight, guys. So we got to hustle it up, okay?
All right. So Hayward,
Sorry, honey. Okay, I'll keep it down.
He was great in that first half. I'm just worried because it slowed down drastically into the second half, and he was part of the group that almost blew the fourth quarter. He had a turnover in there, the offensive foul.
They asked a lot of him. It might have been the Tice fouls, but the 30 minutes was a.
Well, yeah, that was my caveat there because Tice got in the foul trouble, Smart got in the foul trouble. I think Brown had 4, but it wasn't real foul trouble. But they had to interchange wings, centers, and I thought the crucial point was they gave him the extra rest at the beginning of the third.
Short bench, though.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's how it's got to be, though.
Brad was down to 9 minutes after playing 20 in basically every game, since Gordon was out. Ennis had the 6 minutes in the first half, and that's it. Then you had Grant for 9. That's the ball game. Hayward played 31, actually, not 30, it turned out.
And they knew that
finals box score right there.
Yeah.
But, John, when you have a talented starting lineup like the Celtics do, you got to use them. Simple as that. It's like when the Celtics played their best five lineup tonight, everyone was like, "This is awesome! Like we're seeing their best 5 players on the court at once." Like we haven't been able to see that a whole lot this year. So in the playoffs, you got to shave down that rotation like they did tonight. I mean, to me, that's what you got to see going forward. I love what Brad Wanamaker's given them, but it kind of goes back to the Grant Williams thing where it's like you take what you can get out of him until he like does something that you're like, oh, get him out of here.
Brad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have Hayward back, but what's interesting is that he's doing 30. I mean, granted, we talked about him just being there would be a decoy or just his presence would make a difference, but I didn't think he'd play 30.
They would have preferred not to, but they kind of had to.
That long rest makes a huge difference too.
Oh yeah, there's no way he plays 30 if there wasn't those days to rest. Yeah.
But I mean, he might have because you needed this. You had to have this game. So
it was a combination and needing it, the foul trouble, even just the position they were in. Because Miami was always creeping. Like they never got close until the very end, but they pushed it to 11. They'd be staying within that range where you knew they could strike. And Brad was nervous about that. He was always keeping his starters on toe. That's why Tice got into the foul trouble as early as the third. They pushed him a little further, and it didn't work. But I love the rotations tonight. And honestly, Stevens pants Spoelstra tonight. I don't know what Spoelstra was doing between.
He played some weird ones, huh?
Oh, Spoelstra was awful in this game. There was a lineup of Dragic, Jones, Iguodala, just guys who weren't going to score anything.
And it was weird, too. They mentioned it on the broadcast, but taking Bam out when the Celtics went small seemed to be a serious decision, too.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I mean, he got a little too carried away with his depth. The Celtics kept it tight, and that can lose you a game if you keep the wrong guys in there too long. Kelly Olynyk was awful here. Back to earth, which was huge during some of those runs. He missed wide open threes. So they're in search of a fifth man, right? Which is
Let's talk about that best five lineup. We saw it earlier in the playoffs. Like, remember they played it? Oh no, one time in the bubble they played it and they got
Miami.
Miami. Then they got smoked, and it was like everyone was like, "Oh, good, best five," and then it went horribly wrong, and we're like, "Okay, don't roll that one out again." And obviously, it's your first chance to do this since game one of the playoffs, and it went great. But we were talking about it, like Bobby, you wanted to see this in spurts, not to see them do it for long periods of time. To me, it's surprising they don't run this for longer periods of time. This would seem to be this is the classic death lineup everybody talked about. You want that Golden State death lineup, and it's not granted you don't have a true big, but you do have 6'8", 6'8", 6'6". You're not terribly small there, but it is risky. But why do you only want to see it a little bit at a time?
The rebounding, and that's why it got killed in August because of the rebounding. Bam was just knocking guys into the front row and stepping in for buckets. It didn't happen tonight, and that was the most encouraging part about it. They ran it for about 220, and there were no offensive rebounds, no field goals for Miami. Now, Jalen was stealing the ball every single time they were coming up the court, which is a big reason for that. But
that was incredible.
Yeah, he was a defensive force tonight. And I've said throughout our run on the show here, there are nights where he looks like the best Celtic, and it's always because of his defense. And tonight, again, he was just blowing guys off the ball. And I think Stevens put him in a good spot to succeed. Instead of being out there on Jay, just kind of sitting on the sideline, they put him in positions where guys were going to switch on to him on the roll, and so he could blow up the pick and roll. And he's so good at it. Like what do you have, 5 steals in this one? I'd say so. He ends with 3, but it felt like 5. It honestly did.
Yeah.
Everything else.
We got to talk about Tatum. Was this Tatum's best game?
No.
I mean, dude, he had a great game. He had triple-double alert like going into the fourth quarter. What's that?
What did he do in the fourth quarter?
He didn't do a whole lot in the fourth quarter. He did not do a whole lot in the fourth quarter.
And that's my thing. Like, again, we get a big stat line with him. Fourth quarter comes, and he tries closing it with the crossover, the fadeaways, these crazy shots outside the floor of the offense, and it almost hurt them. So, like, I hate to do this. We did after Game 7, too. He had the huge stat line, but when it mattered close in the fourth, they almost let it go because of his offensive choices.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I think earlier in the quarter, when they kind of stretched it out,
yeah, he hit a 3. He hit a long 3 from the spot.
He hit a 3, that made it 19.
He went 1-4 in the quarter.
Yeah. So he had a couple buckets early. I think he did. Was it in the fourth? He had a 7-point run there.
Oh, end of the third, he had that 5.
End of the third. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just saying, like he's worthy of his props, though. I mean, we've been harsh on him at times, so I think he gave them exactly what they needed for the majority of this game. I mean, he was, I thought him and Jalen were excellent, throughout this game. And we also can't not talk about Tatum. I think sent Jay Crowder entirely out of the bubble on that drive to the hoop where he bumped Crowder. I think Crowder is still going. I think
you see his legs?
His legs kicked up. His leg kicked up at the end. He was completely out of the bubble.
Yeah, that's exactly what it did. No one mentioned
that. Was great.
That was so perfect.
It was like
Crowder. Crowder was stewing. Crowder was stewing after that
game. And how much did we call for Brown to get aggressive and go at them in the lane and cut on the back line and even just
all of it? It didn't make sense last game, and honestly, it's one of the things that it sounded like in the altercation that Jalen was beefing was taking some issue with his touches. That was clear. Like that's an offensive weapon that they just left it in the shed for some reason and just ran all these isolations. But I'm so glad Kemba didn't. Again, it wasn't just handling the ball all game. They were whipping it around. Mm-hmm. And every time Jalen felt like he had a guy he could take off the dribble, he just attacked. I mean, the start of the game was so encouraging, which was just, I think it was Smart and one, and then Jalen to the hole and Jalen to the hole and Tatum to the hole, just one after the other. Yep. It was so clear that they were like attack, and Jalen Jalen did it all game.
I think it drove Crowder crazy too. Crowder tried to get all tough on him, and Jalen looked at him like, "Bro, I know you, man. Like, you're not gonna swing on me. Like,
Settle down.
like you didn't even do this in practice. Like, get out of here. You're not that tough." And then he starts forcing the issue. If you didn't notice, like Crowder, there were some of these shots where he could have just easily just took his time, but he was like throwing them at the rim. Like he wanted to like make it right through. Like almost like it was gonna be automatic, but he wasn't taking his time with it. Yeah, Crowder.
Crowder was definitely
Crowder's going to Crowder.
Crowder.
Tonight, sure.
Crowder's going to Crowder. That's what he's going to do. I mean, sometimes he'll hit some threes.
And he'll miss a lot.
Crowder's. You'll always take the Jalen Crowder trade off there.
Great playoffs before tonight. It'd been a long time coming for him to come back to earth, and they're so lucky they finally got tonight because he got open looks all game long.
All game. He was 2 of 9, I think, from 3.
They challenged him. They challenged him to shoot it, and you know what? He was getting frustrated. Him and Jalen went at it, and it was about time. I was actually shocked that it took as long as it did for those two to go, sort of face to face there, because I'm sure they've had some. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they've had some heated, practice battles, and Jay Crowder's a competitive guy, and I think he's got a lot, on his, big chip on his shoulder. Whether it's Jalen, whether it's Gordon Hayward, like just playing against his old team. And you could tell it kind of got to him a little bit tonight. So I thought that was nice to see.
Yeah, Olynyk talked about that a little bit too. They asked him if there was kind of a sense of they could have done something with you guys, and he was like, "Yeah, but we all knew where that was going after 2017." And Olynyk got the bag too, and he goes 0-6 in this one. He wasn't great either, so they got an old.
He was non-factor.
Yeah, it'll be all right. That $50 million.
Yeah. Olynyk was a non-factor, and you know what? Jimmy Butler felt like a non-factor for like majority of this game. I don't remember much of what he did. I know he ended up with 17 points, but John texted us and asked if he was inactive tonight in like the third quarter, and it was a good question because he didn't do anything.
No, I feel like that's sort of been him though, right? Like he
showed up late.
See it now, but before, it would be like in stretches, and then everyone else would start going off, and then when they needed him most in that fourth quarter, he would do his thing. That's been the case in game one.
Like he was waiting for the moment where, like, okay, now I'm going to turn on my Jimmy Butler, thing. Right. But it never came, and even when it did, and he did have a couple bucks late, it just didn't matter because it was, it was the lead.
Yeah, it didn't matter by then. Exactly.
Right. And this is that sense of being on the reverse side of what we're used to with the Celtics. Like that's how Boston played for so many years. Like everybody would be spreading out the responsibility. Now on the Boston side, it's 1, 2, 3 guys doing everything. And Butler, like he's talked about it, like he's really trying to get the Robinsons of the world and the Heroes of the world. Hero, mind blowing in that second.
Man,
get these guys going. He tries to do hands off. Plus, he's a guy who scores like probably more of his points at the free throw line than any other star at the league. So that makes him a little sneaky too.
That is true. You guys want to? We're going to hear from Gordon here on his decision to not leave the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously wasn't in the plan. Getting injured and going back to Indianapolis for treatment. I trust those guys with everything back there, and so obviously I think a little bit lucky that Robin was there already in Indy, so I got a chance to be at home and get great treatment. But that wasn't in the plan. And I mean, Robin could be, having a baby at any point in time. And so, I think it's probably something that I'll be here. And, by the time I get back, I might miss the birth, if she just goes in and rushes into the hospital. So, we discussed it, we prayed about it, and I think it's probably best if I stay here and, help our team.
That's it. Staying here, helping the team. He and Robin discussed it.
Hey,
that's it.
Making Danny Ainge proud. Danny Ainge last week said everything, but I really, really, really want him to stay in the bubble. So maybe Ainge, I bet you Ainge already knew and was just trying to, not say anything. But I kind of got the sense that Ainge basically said if it was him back in the day, they wouldn't leave for that to happen. Now you can't compare eras; everything's different now. But what's up, John?
On the player side, on the court side, he did also say that he's like really gassed. So again, I think it is fortunate that they have that break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had about 2 or 3 practices for this, and all he did was 3-on-3, so he didn't prepare for this at all.
Yeah. So, Jimmy, and I know we talked about it before. You were kind of saying, like, if he could play tonight, could he have not played earlier? I really think this was they pushed him early. He came. I think this is like a warrior sort of moment where he's like, let's go, or whatever, because it was like it's now or never at this point. So I think he went early. I think in an optimal world, if this were the regular season, he's probably 2 weeks away still, you know? So
No,
I think
he's not 2 weeks. Dude, I mean, they didn't card him
I think
out
it's
there.
possible. I think
In
it's
regular season, he's talking about, yeah.
In a regular
2
season, I
weeks.
think he'd be closer to the 6-week mark. He's like 4 weeks and 2 days. The injury was August 17th.
Especially the way the Celtics handled things, yeah, for sure. Season, yeah.
I think he would have practiced a full week or so, and maybe come in and played 11 minutes in the first game or 12 minutes. The timetable would be totally different. I think. And so I think he's like, let's go now, because if there might not be a tomorrow.
Maybe, but we don't know what's that.
I think next Wednesday was the target date, but then because of the 0-2 hole, they're like, you know what?
Yeah.
Well, it was 4 weeks. It was 4 weeks, and then they got fortunate because the protest prolonged it a little bit more. Like some things worked out in their favor.
A little, but I mean, it was August 17th, where it's September 19th, so we're a little over 4 weeks.
4 weeks, yeah.
We're 4.5 weeks. So I mean, it's on the conservatives. It was on the early side of the estimate, which most people thought was optimistic. When they said 4 to 6, everyone was like, 4, no way. So I think he's early. I think he's
a little early, but I mean, I don't think if
Robin's late, he's early.
If he was 2 weeks away in regular season time, I don't think he plays 30 minutes tonight. I mean, he had 15 in the first half. I just don't think they put him for that. I was expecting him to play about 15, 20 minutes total tonight. I didn't expect to see 30. The fact that he played 30, I don't think they let him do that if he's truly not like healthy enough to do it. I mean, Brad Stevens is not that type of coach. Does Gordon Hayward need a little kick in the butt maybe to push himself? Like in that, I'm not saying in general, but just in terms of like, having some confidence on the foot, maybe, but I don't think he's 2 weeks away.
I don't think there's fear of re-injury. You're just simply, it's less effective. There's fatigue. You haven't played yourself into game shape. You haven't put your ankle through that rigorous a workout. The soreness after the game, what you could feel, trying to come back from it. All of those are factors that you're risking a little bit there,
He made a point to say that he was able to go back to Indianapolis where, his trainers and those guys that he trusts are there. So I wonder if him actually getting a chance to go back there, where typically he would just be in Boston with the Celtics trainers, right? I mean, I wonder if him being able to go back to Indy gave him more confidence or even sped up the process a little bit.
He went to Peyton Manning's clinic.
Yeah, we won't ask him what they actually did to him, but whatever they did, it worked. But
no, it's interesting they left the bubble. We were like, why is he leaving? And then all of a sudden he comes back.
He's like, I got a guy.
It's a quick one.
Did he pick up
Don't worry about it. I got a guy.
He picked up a side gig as like a bartender, just making old fashions for everybody too. I mean, that's what he looks like.
You know what everyone talks about, which I love. It's those old weightlifting guys with the handlebar mustaches, big barbells, riding unicycles. That's Hayward.
I can't believe Robin let him keep it. I can't believe she let him keep it.
And he was good tonight, but as the game went on, he started to fade a little bit. So I'm interested to see how he feels tomorrow. And going into the next game, they're very fortunate to begin this 4-day layoff now. I guess football bullied the NBA into staying away from Monday night, so they get a big break here. Like we're talking ever since we started doing this show, it's been every other night since.
It's unreal. What a pace. Yeah. I'm gonna play. I'm gonna quickly play a bite from Brad talking about the team coming out and what kind of effort they were going to get after the locker room explosion last game.
Yeah, I mean, I told a good majority. I think I told the team this yesterday. I certainly told the staff 2 nights ago. Like this result didn't really matter to me. It was more about like, what are we going to show ourselves to be? And I thought that we were a really special group, a really good group. And the first time we were pushed to more emotions that challenged us, we got better, and that's encouraging. Just took a bunch of good people committed to each other. There's no special talks, no special things, no rah-rah speeches. It's who you have in the locker room and are they committed to each other. So everybody gets pushed to emotions in sports. That's why I wasn't, I was curious to see what would happen tonight, but I didn't have much doubt. I think this group has some good character.
All right, can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
So first off,
Yeah.
give me a break. You didn't care about the result, okay? Of course you did.
Yeah, right.
This isn't like a rah-rah teaching moment. You needed this freaking win, so you needed them to come out.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great that he said it, but come on. But
no moral victories, no.
Yeah, this
wanted to
isn't
have
the
fun.
moral victory. She's like,
Just wanted to have fun.
I'm just happy that we showed up tonight. No, you needed a win.
You needed to
I
win
don't even know why
badly.
he goes. I don't even know why he goes through that act.
He can't shake it off. He's trying though. He's
It's
trying.
just
He
Brad
can't.
being
He's trying
Brad,
to.
I
I was
guess.
like, come on, Brad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
come on, get on with it. Get on with it. Get on with it. You were freaking out.
Though, minimizing the pressure and the
No, I
small
get it.
stuff.
It's Brad.
Yeah, it's him to the end, and you love his consistency. Like again, we were saying, imagine if he went red face explosive. Like everybody would have just tuned that out in the locker room in Game 3, and who knows? Like it's not necessarily certain that his message got through, but we know he did the overnight meeting. Maybe that I heard they had a call after that, so he was working all night long to try to mend those fences. And again, everybody, how many people were on Twitter, on YouTube, everywhere talking about the zone, the zone, the zone? This wasn't the stupid zone. There was a huge rift in the locker room.
Get him,
No one
Bobby.
knew what they were doing. They
Yeah.
had no togetherness on the court, and everybody's acting like Miami had the zone of all zones.
I'm still blown away the amount of attention. Toronto's zone. We talked about this last
Toronto's
game.
better.
Toronto's zone messed with them. Miami's is not. Like it's not. It
What
hasn't.
about Boston's
it's
zone today?
just-
That was kind of funny.
Yeah,
It's
look
just
it up.
Bam.
We
It's just
do
no
zone
one's
too.
going up with. It's just Bam. It's just trying to get Bam in check. When he jump with him.
Yeah, I got some of that zone.
Beautiful pass by Smart too, pulling it to the right and hitting Brown on the back line. Like they carved it up tonight. It looked easy. Now again, it does make them hesitate. I think Kemba especially being a little lower against some of the tall guys that are at the top of it hesitates a little bit. And I saw him have Brown open for like a split second in the middle. And, you got to make decisions fast there. And he hesitates just a little bit. It gives him a little bit of trouble. So I think a lot of it is that the trouble that it gives Kemba at the top. And we see Tatum turn it over too. But that's where Gordon comes into play. Like, I've been saying all season long, that guy's your best ball handler. And that showed in a big way when he was in there tonight.
Yeah, no doubt. Kemba. I thought again. Kemba played under control today. He didn't try to do too much. He took.
that might be
had
sometimes.
had a couple of really big drives and finishes. I
Shot in the fourth, late in the fourth, when it looked like the Heat were close
needed
in.
that.
If
Needed
Kemba
that.
plays like this the rest of the series, it's a gift. Like I would be honestly, because look at the box score. I mean, what was it? 20 points. He took 16 shots.
8 of 16.
Clean looks. Obviously, towards the rim. A lot
Not a
of
ton
those
of
in the first
forces.
half.
Yeah, got stuff going to the basket.
He got a little sloppy, but that's going to happen. There was 4 turnovers. I mean, that's the stat line that you want to see night in and night out throughout the series, and he just hasn't been able to do that. What's that? I think this is like the third time he's done something like that mirrors that stat line, but it's the first time in the series though.
Yeah, it was right. 4 of 8 from 3.
He had one really good game in the Raptors series. Well, a couple, but one that really stood out. It was just that same solid stat line that we saw tonight.
Holy crap. 34 free throw attempts for Miami, 30 for the Celtics. A lot of friggin' fouls.
Oh yeah.
Ugh.
A lot of fouls. But did you see anyone watch the Lakers game last night where they had 21 or 25 free throws in the second quarter alone?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Unbelievable.
Clippers.
Wow.
We would have had the West Finals of all West Finals, and now we have this. Like, the league must be seething.
Damn, Bobby's pissed. Yo, Denver's going to come back. Who do you think is going to be a sweep?
Yes.
Really?
I do too.
The Lakers are going to
Come
throttle
on,
them.
Denver.
Yeah,
Don't do this.
well,
I don't know. Here's Jalen about the togetherness from tonight and with the locker room stuff.
Just about honing in, focusing. There's some great guys in that locker room. A lot of emotion, a lot of passion. But we're family and we're here for each other at the end of the day. So we exemplified that when we came out together. We stayed together during some tough moments. They made a big run. I think at the end of the second quarter, Tyler Hero made some big plays, but we didn't hang our head. We kept our will high, and we persevered to win this game. To be honest, I didn't get much sleep the last 48 hours, man. I was so, antsy to get back and play basketball. I don't think the last 2 games exemplify, what this team is about. So I couldn't wait to come out and be the best version of myself and try to add to a win. And I'm glad to be a part of this team and this organization. And I'm proud of how we responded. That it was probably blown out of proportion. Like we are in a bubble. It's a lot of grown men. It's a lot of passion and emotion going on. But at the end of the day, we're a family. We represent this organization. We represent each other. And, we won't ever let anything come in between that. We got a tremendous opportunity, and we understand that. And nothing's going to stop us from trying to maximize that.
So there you go. Couldn't sleep. Wanted to come up, show his best self. He did. Jalen was everything.
Yeah, like I said, his defense starts there. The aggressiveness offensively, going at guys on the back line in the center of the zone. I love moving him to the center of the zone. That was a big debate too. Like, who's going to make the most of that space and get him going downhill? He can get on the boards. He can attack Bam. They got Bam in a little bit of foul trouble, not a crazy amount, but that made an impact early in the game. I think it made Spoelstra second guess his rotations. He was able to go at Robinson too, and all of a sudden at the end of the Heat roster now, Tyler Hero, he's reliable. They're going to stick with him for a steady diet of minutes because he does everything. Robinson's a little less steady. He's given them a few bursts, but defensively he's a mess. And then I already talked about the rest of the guys going down their lineup. Like, they are losing reliability down their lineup again and again. And at the top, like you guys mentioned Butler, like he's been there in the big moments, but throughout the game, he's not giving you a ton.
Right.
But him gives you the steadiest diet. Like, he's going to kill the Celtics all series long.
Right now, what are you worried most about? Right now, you're worried about Bam rolling to the basket and getting dunks. Okay, so you're trying to defend against that as best you can. You're worried about Dragic, I think, creating his own offense as he can, but I thought putting Smart on him really helped neutralize that. I mean, he just couldn't get shots off as a result. I mean, he really took him out of the game. And then at this point, it's Hero lighting it up. Would be like the 3 guys you're concerned with. It doesn't mean Butler can't find ways to get baskets and get his. I mean, he's crafty, but you're going to give him shots. You're going to let him. You're going to give him threes if he wants to take them. I mean, you're not concerned with Jimmy Butler
as long as he's not cutting. Yeah,
as long as game planning for him. So it really starts to limit Miami's offensive options there. When the Celtics, the defensive intensity was great tonight, but those are the main things you're worried about there.
I think heading into this to Game 4, though, like Eric Spoelstra's done this in the past too, in his old Miami teams, where he could set up Jimmy Butler to have one of those Jimmy Butler nights. Grab that 3-1 lead. He could go all in. I know it's really risky, and I'd be surprised because he hasn't done it throughout this entire postseason up until this point. But just to grab a 3-1 lead, it wouldn't surprise me if you see more Jimmy, especially in that first half. Like, I feel like he's a lot more passive in that first half, and like we talked about from the top, in the fourth quarter, he sort of takes more control of the game. But then again, this is another Jimmy Butler we're talking about. Taking control of the game for Jimmy Butler nowadays is also getting other guys involved. And of course, when he does heat up, that's the thing that drives me crazy about the Celtics, where it's like everyone's just locked eyes on him, and then you just see cutters going left and right, and then the Heat, they eat up on those looks, whether it's backdoor cuts or open looks in the corner for those 3-pointers.
He made monstrous plays at the end of both of the Heat wins. So I mean, he was there when they needed it, right?
Yeah,
exactly. I just feel like he's being a little more passive in the first half. If he turns it on a little bit, maybe we see one of those 32, 34-point nights from him.
I think they stick to being themselves. Like, they're not going to have really gear toward one guy individually, and I think that would work in Boston's favor too.
Right. I want to see Jimmy try to go off and take their shooters out of the game.
Right.
The point is,
I like to see that too. But Spoelstra, I don't know. We'll see.
Their transition team, and the Celtics cleaned it up tonight until the end. The fourth's when the turnover started flowing, and then you saw them free up their guys for 3. Like, they're a lot like Toronto in many different ways. They're better half court. Toronto is a pretty abysmal half-court offensive team.
Oh, right, that's the difference. Miami has a half-court game. Toronto was terrible.
Yeah, but overall, the game plan the Celtics have to follow is the same. Like, cut the turnovers, get back, and, stay out on the shooters.
That's the three.
Pick and roll game's a different wrinkle, too, you run into.
Yeah, but Dragic is huge. You take him out, that's huge, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't overreact to that either late. Like, he started picking up a ton of baskets in that fourth quarter, but they stayed home on the three-point shooters, which was
right. He's going to get some, and you're going to get caught there, and it's going to happen, and so be it. But I mean, it just killed them the other game. Where here, you're right, getting out on the shooters and making sure you just kind of stuck with your responsibilities was more important. Jimmy?
Yeah, no, it just feels like Butler's not the type of player that's going to force those shots. I mean, when you look at the Heat roster, their roster is like, so Hero's a shooter, Dragic is going to shoot. That sniper, who's that 3-point sniper? I'm blanking on his name.
Duncan Robinson.
Robinson. Like, those are the shooters. Butler just knows that he has to just play his game, which is tough defense, drive to the hoop. Jay Crowder's going to do his thing, I guess, which is hoist threes once in a here and there, and he plays solid defense as well. So that's the thing about the Heat. Like, they have very defined roles, and I think with the Celtics, the problem with them down the stretch is they don't know who's going to be that guy, right? I mean, they don't know who's going to take the shot. They don't know who's going to be the defensive guy, and that sort of gets them in trouble sometimes, where they're looking around saying, "Well, who's going to be the guy?"
That's what hurts them in the fourth quarter. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Fourth quarter,
they have to make bigger, more consequential decisions offensively. And all of a sudden, it's like, all right, who's going to do this? And you were holding your head, John, ready to explode. But Smart kind of took that mantle again.
Right. Yeah.
That's the first thing I was thinking of. The last game, you get a Marcus Smart off of 1 foot attempt, and that's when you realize, okay,
and
he's a classic, like, devil on his shoulder guy, but he's got him on both at sometimes, And it's like, no matter which way he looks, there's just a bad decision either way, And it's
he's agreeing with both of them. He's like, yeah, you're right. Yep. Yeah, I know.
Do it,
Do I take this horrendous one-legged shot?
Exactly.
Or do I go behind the back pass out of bounds? Like, which one's it
He's like, that's the great idea. I agree.
Off one leg, Marcus, you got this.
Yeah, that's ultimately you would feel best about in that spot is Hayward, but he's not ready to do it. And then it's like, I'm just stepping into this. He doesn't feel right about picking it up. You hope eventually, maybe if they eventually get to the next round, as we hope they would.
No, you're right. He was
able to take that up.
He was gassed. He even had a three late in the game, wide open. You could almost see his body language. He's like, I don't want to take this shot. He's like, oh, fuck, I have to. But
he's the oil right now. It's just oil the machine. That's it. Just go through the motions, go through the offense. That's all it is.
He's going to be
basketball. Look, the first week. It's funny to remember that, like, first Clippers, whoever game, like, everybody was looking like that.
True.
All right. Well, is it too early to call this, series altering? Obviously, the 2-1 changes the dynamic versus 3-0. There's no question that the win, but not just the win, that, again, and it can't be a fluke that they're building double-digit leads against this team. It has to show that they're doing something that Miami isn't equipped to handle. But they're just the question again, Bobby, and this is what we always come down to is it the Celtics who are lapsing and losing these leads as they did in games 1 and 2 because of their own issues, or is Miami taking it? And we had the same conversation against Toronto too, whether Toronto was causing some things versus not. I'm still not convinced Miami is. I really do think the first two were entirely self-inflicted. And I hate to say, like, Celtics should be up 3-0 right now, but I think the Celtics should be up 3-0 right now. And so you wonder after this game. And
shout out Raptors fans.
Did you figure it out, or we're going to be doing this every game?
No, you're going to be doing it every game. And Miami, they do have some personnel defensively that irks with you, like Butler in game 2. What he did down the stretch of that game, there wasn't going to be any reversing that. Now, game 1, I'll give you. They definitely should have that one. But what they do defensively, making big plays once they get it close. And again, they catch you snoozing. They're a 3-point shooting team.
But it's the snoozing that we're talking about. Again, it's,
So, like, when you do that, they're perfectly equipped.
That just doesn't seem like if you're Miami, flip the script here. Forget looking at it from the Celtics perspective where you're getting frustrated that they're losing leads. Look at it from Miami's. Do you really want to enter every game going down double digits and be like,
they said that
no, here's what we do best. We catch you snoozing. Like, that doesn't seem to be an A+ game plan.
Yeah,
let's go down 13.
They do. They don't get worried.
We got them now.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Meanwhile, we're on the other side. If the Celtics are up by 20, we're like, this shit ain't safe. Like, we know it could go.
Oh, I know.
Within 5 minutes.
Stuff all game. Like, I keep going back to when they put Cantor in. The Celtics did something very smart, putting Cantor on Iguodala instead of the center, so they wouldn't put him in the pick and roll. Yep. And Spoelstra goes, "We're going to run a pick and roll through Iguodala," and it was just the messiest turnover I've ever seen. There was another play where Dragic was,
and that was it for Iggy.
Threw it behind his back into a turnover. Like, every time they got into the lane tonight, it was a turnover, and that's something they're probably not going to do again, I wouldn't think. But the Celtics took huge advantage of that throughout.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Jimmy, what do you think? Is this has the complexity of the series changed, both with a pretty dominant wire-to-wire win and the return of Hayward?
Yeah,
this is the first time a team has, for the most part, asserted itself, certainly start to finish, where this was a clearly Celtics played
on the fourth.
Again, not in the fourth, but we're only talking about a short stretch. They had a 16-point lead with 5 minutes to go. I mean, it was, again, whittled down to 8 or 9, back up to 11. I mean, how many games do you see? Again, if there wasn't the first 2 games in the back of your mind, you would look at this as a blowout 20-point win where the other team got garbage buckets and got it down to 10, but you were only scared because you'd already seen it happen twice. But stuff like this happens all the time. It was for the most part an entire game, a 15, 16-point game.
Right. And when we look back at games 1 and 2, I mean, I think the reason why the Celtics frustrations boiled over after game 2 is because they saw game 1 slip away. They saw game 2 slip away. Those were games that at one point they had, rather handedly. And it's the NBA. Of course, you're going to go up by double digits and the lead's going to slip away. But I'm still waiting to see them execute late in games. And I know that's Bobby's big thing is when it's a close game, can this team execute late? But the Celtics winning this game the way they did with Gordon Hayward returning and what would have happened if they lost. I mean, if they lose this game, the series is over, right? For all intents and purposes. Right. We're basically waiting 3 days and we're talking about, dead team walking. They win this game the way they win it. They have 3 days now to rest up.
We're killing Danny's draft.
Exactly. Right. We're trading everybody. We're blowing the whole team up. We're calling them all frauds and front runners. They win the game. So after that, everything's changed because now you have 3 days, rest up a little bit. Brad Stevens can maybe work on a few things, try to crack that zone from the Heat or whatever he's got to do. And the Celtics, I guarantee you they're going to be favorites, at least in Vegas, to win game 4. So, yes, this is absolutely a series-changing win. And it goes back to everyone who picked the Celtics to win the series is now a lot more confident in that prediction than they were before.
Bit, right?
Exactly.
I wore green tonight.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're right. Not only do we kill them if they're doing it in Boston accents. Sorry.
Yeah, we fucking murder them, dude.
So Tatum kid, he just has got no heart.
Fucking pussy.
I miss the give and take. I really do. It's so hard to just be yelling into oblivion in this series, not having and I know they were the whimpers of the Heat fans after game 2. Like, they kind of came out of the woodwork with their profile pictures of the players, and they're like, "Oh, how do you like us now?" But you didn't hear it. It was just like three commenters under every tweet.
Mm-hmm.
I just see if this series is going in the other direction, and I'm not there just yet, but if it is, like, I get so jacked up about what the Lakers fans do because that's like a monsoon coming in from the other side.
Yeah.
Bobby still has Raptors in 7 for this series.
Yep, Raptors in 7.
The Raptors, ooh. Like, they were both of these teams. Like,
can we talk about the Raptors fans real quick, though? I mean, you see Kawhi Leonard get knocked out, and you're like, we would be going to the finals if you just stayed here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's off topic.
Like, it's a wrap. That Raptors team with Kawhi Leonard, they're the champions.
It is strange. It is strange to me, Josue, because, like, Kawhi Leonard always seemed like the kind of superstar that wouldn't be like in that whole mode of like, I just want to pair up with my buddies because wouldn't it be awesome if me and Jimmy and Bobby were all on the same team? Who could beat us, right? We played together in AAU. We're
both from California. We're all from Mass.
Yeah, it's awesome. He pairs with Paul George, and he's like, look, there's two of us. It's going to be great. Like,
they gave up like 7 picks to get him.
It was
like man.
I would have never guessed that he'd be that guy where it's just me and my 2 friends who do the same exact thing will be great together.
You know what it is, guys? I hate to say it, but I feel like that entire year, they obviously treated him like a king. But it was just one of those things that just didn't match. He was in Toronto. It was just like, look, you guys are great. It's fun, but we don't have a lot in common.
But
it's me. I'm a Cali guy. I don't fit up here, Like he had to break up with them and be like, look, I'm going to go do my own thing, but, I hope you see someone great.
But like,
hope you meet somebody else.
Contenders. He's like, they just won the freaking title. What do you mean? Toronto, they didn't think they were going to be contenders next year? They won the title.
And again, look at the situation. We all underrated their supporting cast. He got traded there. They set up the whole situation around him, and both sides made it work. When Kawhi went into LA with all the demands, all the ways he wanted to see the roster oriented, it was flawed. And I thought they were much better than they were. But you look at the team at the end of the day, George was a huge disappointment.
Didn't fit.
And everybody else was one-way players. They couldn't figure out their rotations all year.
And also, you're leaving Toronto, which we know firsthand is a crazy basketball city, right? And the fans really, really care about their team. Very passionate. And he went to the AA team of LA. Like, he went to the Clippers, who literally have no. We make fun of Heat fans if they're even still watching this video, but the Heat fans look like super fans compared to Clippers fans.
Couldn't get Lakers tickets.
Exactly. The Clippers stink. They've stunk forever. They're gonna stink forever. Doc Rivers must be
the only option he had.
Doc Rivers must be the best salesman going to get Kawhi Leonard to come to LA Clippers. But give Kawhi this. He did protect himself. We'll be gone after next season.
Oh, and don't make it be the Lakers. Oh, no, please.
No, I don't think he'll do that. I don't think he can do that.
Crazy things happen.
So how many lives does Doc have now? 9? Okay, so this is it, guys. All right.
There's been 14 3-1 leads in history, and he has 3 of them.
That's insane.
I like Doc. I'm not gonna.
I like him too, so I'm gonna bite my tongue. But you guys know what I'm saying.
If we've reached the Clippers portion of the broadcast, we must be winding it down. So, final thoughts heading into next game. And again, I said it. Again, I tweeted it early, and who cares what I tweet? But honestly, like as soon as I saw Hayward out there, I was like, game changer. And again, it wasn't because he was going to score 30 points. It just was that thing that I felt they needed.
He's there
badly needed it. And it made a difference. And everybody else played better as a result of it. I see that continuing. I like it going forward. I really think like pressure is on Miami here, even though they're up 2-1, because it's like,
sure.
As we said, you've been down 3 times, big. And this one you couldn't come back from. Like, what are you going to do now? Pop quiz, hot shot.
Right.
I'm curious. So I don't know. Jimmy, start with you. Looking ahead.
Yeah, I think they got a few days here. I'll tell you what. After tonight, if the Celtics and having a little pool party and the Heat are having a little pool party over the next couple of days, I want to be on the Celtics side because I think that they've got a little swagger. They've got some confidence going on right now. Gordon Hayward's back. He's got a few more days to rest. And again, I know I sound like a broken record, but if the Celtics play their best basketball and the Heat play their best basketball, the Celtics are going to beat the Heat. They just are. And tonight you kind of saw that. I mean, the Heat didn't play their best basketball, but the Celtics played their most complete game as a team that we've seen in a while. And it just reaffirmed my original thoughts that, this is a talented starting unit. We saw the top 5 guys playing for them for a bit and they had success. So I'm looking to see that more going forward.
Bobby?
Oh.
What happened?
Yeah, we just lose his audio just like that.
Oh, is it just us? Go ahead then.
Bobby, we lose your audio. Just way you go. Bobby, jump back on.
Yeah, no, to pick up on what Jimmy said, yeah, definitely. But also, I get the feeling that Dragic is going to bounce back from this. And you don't want Dragic to bounce back because it won't be Dragic that kills you. It'll be what that means when he bounces back, whether it's getting clean looks to the basket, opening up the offense a bit, and that obviously leads to shooters like Hero or Duncan Robinson getting his look. And, he can get going. We saw what he did in that second half. So I think that's my only concern is just limiting those guys and stopping their offense. The Jimmy Butler game is a possibility, but again, I'd be surprised if they go that route.
No.
I think Spoelstra is going to stick with what got him here, and this is going to be a tough one. Either way, I think both teams get a big rest here. It's not just about the Celtics needing it when we think about Gordon Hayward. This is a big rest for the Miami Heat. They've only dropped this is their second loss, so they can use a break and come right back and think that they can come up with another winning streak right after.
And then if they win Game 4, we might be looking at the Carson Edwards game in Game 5.
Oh, get that. If the Heat win Game 4, Joe Shay's gonna go into his bag of tricks and trying to figure out what the Celtics can do next.
Oh, don't even wait till I get it back. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna
wait till
my
my
next
one. Wait till my next one.
I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna tell you what they're gonna do. Okay, hold on. Bobby,
Can we hear about?
That was the perfect example, Joe Sway. Anything you put out there is going to be out there forever. I'm going to be replaying that one for a long time.
Do it up. Do it up.
Bobby, Game 4 thoughts.
The best
quick,
five lineup.
What's up, Jimmy?
I was gonna say Brad he was active tonight, so it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Thought about it. Again, they
Bobby,
watched.
give me your thoughts for the Game 4 right now.
They watched. Taylor got the ball, and he was aggressive going to the hoop, and Carson Edwards is a maybe.
Yeah.
Late game execution, Bobby, right?
Imagine Joe Sway on the Zoom. Coach, did you think about Edwards in this one?
I wasn't remotely that serious that I'd actually freaking asked Brad Stevens about it.
All right, Game 4. I loved the best 5 lineup. And there were a couple moments in this game where you got generally excited about the energy. Like when Hayward came in, when Grant came in and gave you those 3 big plays. And then when the best 5 lineup came in and just started smoking them with all the steals, all of the buckets in transition, the 9-2 run that went on, I all of a sudden looked and said, this is the component of the team that they haven't unlocked. And if this is a regular part of their rotation going forward, you have championship potential with that group. Like that's a 5 that's hard to match for any of the remaining teams that are out there. It's a short burst, John, as we said. You need to extend it a little bit more if you're going to have it be a significant part of the team. But for that first test to finally work, they've tried it so much this year and had it fail.
Yeah,
this was such an important moment for them.
It is interesting, though, because you're running into a problem big everywhere you go, no matter what, so it's hard to play that lineup against any team here. Like if you have Bam in there, it's going to be tougher. You could get away with it, but it's again you're giving up some, and whether it's Jokic or Anthony Davis is always going to be an issue. Like where there's just going to be a big out there who's going to present problems. So it's I don't know how much you can use it, but when you do, you make the other team have to make decisions.
Yeah, and I have enormous amount of respect for the Heat overall. Love their personnel, love their shooting.
They're great.
Love Bam, but ultimately.
I like the Heat much more than Toronto.
Me too.
I like their team.
Not me. Couldn't
the
be.
Heat have a future. Toronto doesn't. Sorry.
We'll see. But anyway, the Heat aren't done. They got a bounce back game in them. You're gonna take a big blow in Game 4, and you're gonna have to handle it again as they did tonight. And ultimately, they need to just not turn the ball over like tonight, and they'll be fine. They'll be closer, and it's going to be a long series. I still have this one going 7.
Celtics and
6. See, that's how I feel too, Bobby. I feel like it's either Game 4 or 5 that the Heat's going to have that one game where they just completely, like they're going to win another game in this series, in my opinion.
And
it's going to be one of the next 2 games.
It is kind of the same deal as Toronto, though, where they don't have a blowout win in them necessarily, which is huge for the Celtics.
Right.
This is always going to be close.
Right.
They'll win another one. One of the next 2, they'll go to Miami.
Again, you just shouldn't have dropped both of those first 2. It's a real the Celtics put
That's the thing. You made it more complicated, right?
They put themselves in this hole, but it is what it is. So, all right, Game 4, we got a few days off, which is good because we can chill out. We've been going every other day for for months now.
Get some sleep.
How do you think How do you think that impacts?
Tough out here.
It's tough. What's that, Bobby?
How do you think that impacts both teams? That long layoff.
That we've been working hard. I don't think that much.
Yeah.
Bobby, I think it's huge for me, man. For a couple days.
Yeah, I'm gonna ice up.
I think the Celtics benefit the most because they're riding that feel good wave. Miami can't go and just play it off. Miami's better rested to begin with because they've been mowing through teams. The Celtics went through 7 games,
Right.
and you get that extra Hayward thing. So I think it benefits the Celtics throughout. Is they need more rest. They were playing short bench all the way through in that Toronto series, so those guys are gassed. They're riding high, and they feel good about themselves here, and Miami wants to kind of shake it off. So I think that rest is perfect for the Celtics right now.
Yeah, because the pressure's all on Miami right now, heading into Game 4. It's almost like this thing is tied as opposed to 2-1.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Game 4 Wednesday. We'll wrap it up. Bobby Manning, Jimmy Toscano, Josue Pavone. We will see you guys on Wednesday, but make sure to check us out on YouTube. We'll have much more on this game and the entire series and everything leading up. And if anybody yells at anybody in the locker room, we'll talk about that.
I'll get him on the phone.
Yeah, we'll get him on the phone. We'll check in how Gordon's doing. So there's plenty more coverage to come. But until then, thanks, guys.